This legal substance sent me somewhere I couldn't escape. I was in a weird mood, and I wanted to do something interesting and slightly mind-bending, so I started asking friends for some recommendations. My good friend who usually procures my substances for me suggested that we hit up the head shop in town, where salvia was readily available for not a lot of cash. Acid being the only other hallucinogen I've tried, and still by far my favorite, I did a little reading about the best way to consume my new purchase. During the setup phase, I was nervous, as my friends kept offering helpful advice that only served to make me more nervous about what the experience would hold. Finally, one of my more rational friends stepped in and said, "Look, just remember that it will end and it gets scary and you will be fine." My friends who were with me at the time acted as trip sitters, and I'm glad I had them there to keep me grounded. Salvia, at least the strength that I took, produced an incredible nearly immediate high that lasted for almost 45 minutes. One of my friends held the water bong for me and also the lighter, as I didn't think I would be able to handle it once I inhaled, and the theory turned out to be correct. Almost immediately, I fell backwards laughing and was suddenly transported to a giant-sized version of the living room I grew up in. I was also in pain. I felt as though a constantly rotating series of needles was being pulled through my skin. As the laughter wore off, I began trying to explore movement in the strange realm, and I discovered I could only move in what I thought was slow motion. In reality, my friends had to physically restrain me from falling off the couch and hurting myself. I don't know if my tongue went into the back of my throat, but one of the physical sensations I experienced is difficult to explain, but it was also scary. I felt like I was being doubled over and over. When your computer monitor craps out and you're able to drag whatever is on your screen around and create copies as the picture freezes is the best way I can describe it. But this sensation started with my hands and then up the side of my body to my face, at which time it felt like there was a finger being shoved down my throat, and I began gagging and drooling, and I had difficulty breathing. I struggled to focus on breathing, and eventually the sensation went away, but I am grateful that I had something there just in case something would have happened. Immediately after the novelty of trying to move wore off, I realized I hadn't actually taken any salvia. That time had merely stopped, and the world as I know it had been replaced by sentient robots who looked and acted like my friends. I then began a desperate attempt to leave myself a message wanting my future self that the world wasn't real, but the world kept starting over. I believe most of the paranoid fear stems from the fact that I forced myself to open my eyes way before my mind was ready to process anything visually. I wanted to experience altered sight, but instead I believe I forced an unwanted hallucination into my psyche by attempting to understand the world around me. I tried to get behind the sofa to protect myself, but I was unable to move and instead settled for burrowing in the couch and giving extremely dirty looks to the robots who were waiting to kill me. During this time, the unpleasant physical sensation remained, and I again realized that this pain was because the fourth dimension of the world was running underneath my skin. I began complaining that being in the fourth dimension hurt and that it was under my skin and I wanted it out. One of my quick thinking friends grabbed my hands before my acrylic nails could do any damage to my skin. I then took a nap, only about 5 or 10 minutes, but I woke up in a panic thinking that I had been there for 4 hours. I discovered that lightly brushing my hands over my skin seemed to dull the physical sensations enough to focus on something else. Each time I tried to focus on a new sensation, it seemed that the sensation would disappear and give away to the same irrational fear that everyone was out to get me. We had been warned by the lady at the head shop that this was the most potent stuff that they had in stock, and that the effects might last longer than normal. Eventually, I began evaluating if I was okay to drive, but was again paralyzed by the fear that the people in the car would know that I was on drugs and would try to kill me. While time seemed to run really slow, the terror of the robot people ended in 2 to 3 minutes. But the fear that the world I was in was not entirely real lasted for another half an hour. We went to get ice cream after I felt that I could walk, and even after I thought my head was clear, I found myself evaluating whether or not I was truly where I thought I was at the time.